Hey everybody, my name is Carly. Most of you already know me. I'm going to take the advice of a dear friend that I met a few years ago who told me that I would be really good at making videos and encouraging people who are in a spouses club or in a leadership position, and just sharing some tips and tricks that I have learned over the last decade of working within those organizations. So I'm going to take her advice. Even though I do not like making videos, I'm going to get over that because I do think that the information I have to share is vital and important, and I do think that it could help other people. So I'm going to put myself aside here and get over the fact I don't like putting myself out here like this. Anyway, so I'm going to give you, I even wrote notes just so that I don't go all over the place just for you guys. So here's my first shot at this, and I'm going to give you a short backstory. And basically, believe it or not, you probably believe it, I wasn't always the leader that some people see me as today. So I was not that natural born leader. I was, if you go back to high school, I wasn't straight A student on National Honor Society or in student council. I was not. So I think a lot of times people think that's who the leaders are and that's where they came from. But I was playing all the sports. I was on the volleyball team. I did basketball. I did softball. So I went back and I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I was learning a lot of the skills that I brought to the table as a leader in a nonprofit. A lot of that was learned on the field, in a gym, on the court. So although I don't have the traditional sense that you may think of, let's go like Rory Gilmore, for my Gilmore Girl fans, that was not me at all. But on the court and with my teammates, I was the encourager. I was the connector. I was the emotional support person out there trying to cheer on a team when we're losing or mend the arguments between players. And that got me pretty far. I was captain of my college volleyball team, and that was kind of shocking too because I just showed up and I was one of the younger players, but that was something that these coaches who did not grow up with me in high school and did not know anything but what I had to offer on the court, they saw that in me pretty fast, and I was one of the captains because of that. So when I think about it and I say, oh, I really, wasn't a leader. I always was. I just didn't think of myself in that way. So what does this have to do with spouses clubs? Okay, so let's cut to years later. I'd been part of clubs. I was an active member. I did little board positions here and there. Always loved membership. Probably not a shocker there. I like that one. And when I was at Fort Knox, they were about to do their nominations and they were getting everything ready. And I had been on the board for 1 year as membership. And I got a phone call from the president at the time, out of the blue. And she started that conversation with, "Hey, Carly, don't laugh. Kid you not." And I was like, okay. And she goes, "I've been talking to the rest of the exec team and we decided you should be president next year." And I was completely kind of taken aback because, again, I didn't see myself as the president. I saw myself as super volunteer, willing to help, do things like that, but I didn't see myself leading the organization. So I said, okay, let me think about this, whatever. And there's two parts to this. So yeah, I was kind of shocked or whatever. And that led to another conversation with a senior spouse who was on the exec board. And she came up and said, "Hey, I heard you got a phone call." And I was like, "Yeah, isn't that crazy?" And my words to her were, one, I said, "I'm just a captain's spouse. I feel like I'm skipping the line here, isn't that usually for senior spouses or whatever?" So I will tell you, first thing she told me was, very sternly, I may say, "Don't ever say that again." I looked at her like, "What?" She said, "You are not just a captain's spouse. You are a captain's spouse. And I think you'd make a great president." So that day with her, that little conversation with her was so important to the steps that led me to actually taking on that role. The second part of that was when I would talk to my husband about it and say, "Oh man, they want me to do this. I don't know. I've never done this, whatever." And he basically said, "All you've done all year is talk about things that you would do differently. Man, if I were in charge, like, I would add way more night events. I would make sure that all the working spouses, because there's so many of them, would be able to come to these events, that they would have things to do. We should have a lot more sub clubs. And I would constantly just talk about things that, like, I think would be like really great change, not that it wasn't good, but I just would always say these things. And he said, if you're president, you can do that. You can make those changes. And I was like, you're right. So that led to me, out of the blue, taking on the role as president of Fort Knox Spouses Club. It was a super successful year filled with a ton of learning. So I will say, I came back the second year. It was COVID. So now I had a totally different wrench thrown in my well-oiled machine, but we implemented so many cool things for COVID. We were still meeting virtually, doing all the things, and it was great. And then I went on to go to Fort Irwin and was on the executive board there and did fundraising and grants for them. And then the following year I was president, and then I came to Fort Leavenworth and they were looking for a president. And so I was president here for 2 years. So before I knew it, I went from just being a regular board member, a good volunteer, to having 6 years of executive level nonprofit leadership experience. So that brings us to where we are today. And that brings me with my final point of what all of this is about. You had to have the backstory. You really did. My point of this video is for anybody watching and you are in the Spouses Club era right now. You are a Spouses Club junkie. You always join, you go to the stuff. Maybe you've been on the board. Maybe you've been president before. I am asking you, I'm giving everybody a call out. I am asking you to find somebody this year during nominations, wherever you are, someone who is not on the executive team. Okay. Maybe they're on the board. Maybe they go to a lot of sub clubs, but I want you to go up to somebody that you see something in. Maybe they don't know it yet, but you see a leader in them. You see potential, whether it's the way that they interact with people and that the kindness that they show others when they're volunteering and working with groups and whatever. Maybe it's that you've seen them in whatever it is that they're doing outside of the Spouses Club, but you see something in them that would make a great leader. I am asking you to go up to that person, send them a message, reach out to them and say, you know what? I think you would make a really great a really great president. I think you would make a great VP. I think you would be excellent at treasurer. Give them that little push that they might need, because leaders, in my opinion, and I am full proof of that, leaders are developed and leaders are grown. Not everybody is just leader. You don't go to school, some people do, but you don't go to school for leadership. That's more of a master's degree. But leaders are developed through the people around them. So if someone wouldn't have given me those words of encouragement, telling me that you can do this, you'd be great, I probably never would have taken the opportunity that was thrown in my lap. I probably wouldn't have not even, thought about that. And here I am a decade later. I feel so prepared. I am so prepared that I started my own nonprofit. I feel prepared enough to apply for jobs where I'm at an executive level within these nonprofits, these larger nonprofits. I can do it. I've learned it. I've lived it. So that's what I'm asking today. That was my first little tidbit of Spouses Club knowledge that I am sharing with the world. And I hope that you take something from this, but I truly hope that you will reach out. And if it's you, and you're thinking, maybe I have the ability to do what she's talking about, then do it, okay? Go out, make the change, okay? Be the change, and continue to grow these clubs, because they are an amazing part of this community, and they are a tradition that I hope continues forever. But to continue forever, change needs to happen, and that comes from younger spouses, up-and-coming spouses, new to the military life. You guys can do this. All right. Have a good day.